She was the only splash of color in a sea of gray and gold, a figure so poised, so effortlessly elegant, that she almost disappeared into the background until you looked up, because perched atop her head wasn't just any tiara. It was the tiara Princess Diana's, the very one she wore on her wedding day. And in that moment, Catherine, the Princess of Wales, wasn't just wearing a crown. She was wearing a legacy. While the reign of King Charles III and Queen Camilla unfolds before the cameras, something else is quietly taking shape behind the scenes. It's not loud, it's not official, but it is deliberate, because piece by glittering piece, the future of the monarchy is being passed, not to Camilla, but to Kate. And now, a secret long hidden has finally come to light. Queen Elizabeth II had a private plan, a legacy not written in words, but in diamonds. And it's rewriting everything we thought we knew about the royal line of succession. Royal watchers have always known Queen Elizabeth II was a master of subtlety. She didn't need speeches to make statements. She had pearls, brooches, and tiaras for that. But what nobody expected was this. According to royal insiders, and quietly confirmed by Princess and Queen Elizabeth had privately organized her most personal belongings before her death. Specifically, her jewels. Not the official crown jewels locked away in the Tower of London, but her private collection, the pieces that mattered most to her, the ones with stories, memories, and meaning. And who did she leave them to? Not Queen Camilla, the woman who now technically shares her throne, but to Kate Middleton, the Duchess turned princess who never sought the crown, but is now wearing it in every way that counts. This wasn't just a quiet snub. It was a calculated succession. And to understand just how deep this decision goes, we have to look at the gems themselves. Behind every glittering stone in the royal vaults lies a story of power, pain, and politics. Take the Koh-i-Noor diamond, whose name means mountain of light, but whose legacy is soaked in shadow. Once possessed by maharajas and emperors, the diamond was seized, traded, and bloodied by betrayal. Every man who owned it met a tragic end. Today, it's only worn by queens. Then there's the Cullinan diamond, the largest gem-quality rough diamond ever found. Weighing over 3,000 carats, it was gifted to King Edward VII and split into dazzling fragments. One of them now sits in the sovereign scepter, another in the imperial state crown. That crown alone contains nearly 3,000 diamonds and weighs over a kilo, worn by Queen Elizabeth on her coronation day and at every state opening of Parliament afterward. But while those stones capture the public's imagination, it's the private jewels that held the Queen's personal heart. Princess, and known for her candidness, stunned royal watchers with a quiet revelation. Queen Elizabeth's final wish was always clear. The legendary jewels and the subtle but powerful symbolism they carried were meant exclusively for Catherine. Anne's disclosure wasn't merely gossip. It confirmed what many had suspected. Elizabeth saw in Kate more than just a royal bride. She saw a guardian of the crown's legacy, dignified, trustworthy, and poised to carry forward traditions with quiet strength. Through Anne's revelation, the world finally understood. Catherine wasn't simply chosen by chance, but by design, through the Queen's silent yet decisive wish. Hidden far from public view, Queen Elizabeth's private collection was a vault of meaning. These weren't museum pieces. They were living heirlooms, each one worn with intent. Unlike the ceremonial items, these jewels were hers alone. Gifts from family, tokens of diplomacy, and expressions of private sentiment. She didn't just wear them for sparkle. She wore them for symbolism. A sapphire brooch to underline a diplomatic message. A strand of pearls to soften a firm stance. And when she placed these jewels into someone else's hands, it wasn't decoration, it was direction. And Catherine? She was the Queen's most carefully chosen recipient. It began quietly. In 2011, on the day Kate Middleton married Prince William, she stepped into Westminster Abbey wearing the Cartier Halo tiara. A subtle piece, barely noticed by some, but royal insiders knew better. That tiara, crafted in 1936, had belonged to Queen Elizabeth herself. By choosing that tiara, the Queen was sending a message. one that didn't need to be said aloud. "You belong." It wasn't flashy. It didn't compete with Kate's gown. But that was the point. It was a crown of quiet power, a whisper of trust. And from that moment forward, Kate's connection to the Queen's legacy began to glitter in plain sight. Over the next decade, the Queen's message to Catherine grew louder, not through words, but through diamonds. One of the most telling moments came when Kate stepped out wearing the Nizam of Hyderabad necklace, a jaw-dropping piece considered one of the most valuable in the royal vault. Crafted by Cartier and gifted to the young Princess Elizabeth in 1947, this wasn't just a wedding present. It was a diplomatic gesture between empires. When Elizabeth wore it, it spoke of global reach and royal maturity. But when Kate wore it, it confirmed something more intimate, that she had become the visible future of the crown. And it didn't stop there. Kate began to appear in more of the Queen's cherished items, like the Greville chandelier earrings, originally gifted to Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother. These earrings, an elegant storm of emerald, trapeze, and half-moon diamonds, weren't just chosen for their sparkle. They were chosen for their symbolism. Queen Elizabeth wore them during state visits and key moments in her reign. When Kate wore them to the 2023 Jordanian royal wedding, it was a powerful nod to her expanding international presence. Other pieces followed: Queen Mary's diamond choker, the Queen Mother's sapphire brooch, Elizabeth's triple-strand pearls. Each one handpicked, each one a lesson. They were messages passed through generations. Hold yourself with grace. Represent the crown with calm. Know when to speak and when to shine. These weren't random fashion choices. This was an inheritance of intention, wrapped in velvet and diamonds. And Kate accepted it all without question, stepping further into her role as the quiet steward of a centuries-old legacy, one dazzling heirloom at a time. While Catherine's jewelry box grew heavier with history, another royal figure stood quietly in the background: Queen Camilla. Though she wears the title of Queen Consort, her role in the late Queen Elizabeth's legacy is noticeably absent. And that absence isn't accidental. It's strategic. Throughout Elizabeth's reign, Camilla was rarely, if ever, seen wearing pieces from the Queen's personal jewelry collection. No borrowed tiaras, no brooches of sentimental value, no signs that she had been invited into the inner sanctum of royal inheritance. This wasn't a public snub. It was a silent omission. Some royal watchers chalked it up to tradition. After all, Camilla's path into the royal family had been complicated, marked by years of public skepticism and press criticism. But behind the palace walls, something far more deliberate was happening. Queen Elizabeth may have respected Camilla's position beside Charles, but she never treated her as a direct heir to her personal legacy. No mentorship, no long, quiet lunches where family history was passed down. No subtle handovers of heirlooms, only distance. Contrast that with Catherine, who received those quiet gestures time and again. Engagements with the Queen, private teas at Windsor, exclusive loans of priceless jewels. These weren't coincidences. They were calculated steps. Steps toward grooming the next true queen, not in title, but in trust. Princess, and eventually confirmed what many had long suspected. Queen Elizabeth had already made her decision. She had earmarked her jewels for Kate. Each piece she handed down was a vote of confidence. Not for Camilla, but for Catherine. In the world of royalty, where every decision is symbolic and nothing is left to chance, this was a clear message. The monarchy's heart wasn't in the present. It was in the future. And the future, in Queen Elizabeth's eyes, was Catherine. Power in the royal family rarely arrives with a trumpet blast. It tiptoes in, quiet, composed, and dressed in pearl drop earrings. And that's exactly how Catherine, Princess of Wales, has become the real center of the monarchy. Not with a crown, but with credibility. Unlike Queen Camilla, who ascended the throne after a long and often turbulent journey, Catherine's rise has been almost imperceptible, yet incredibly deliberate. She didn't demand attention. She earned respect. From the moment she married into the royal family, she carried herself with a blend of humility and resolve that felt familiar. Eerily familiar. To many, She began to mirror Queen Elizabeth herself. Kate's presence at royal functions is marked by stillness. She doesn't chase the spotlight, but she commands it when it finds her. Whether she's visiting a children's hospice, engaging with mental health campaigns, or walking behind the Queen's coffin with silent strength, she embodies the same unwavering duty that defined Elizabeth's reign. And the Queen saw that. She recognized her own reflection in Kate's restraint, in her ability to remain composed under pressure, in her refusal to let scandal touch her image. That's why the Queen didn't wait for Kate to become queen by title. She began treating her like one long before. Every time Kate wears one of those legacy pieces, she's reaffirming her role as the royal family's moral center. And the public sees it. In polls, in headlines, and in international admiration, Catherine stands apart, not just as a royal wife, but as the de facto leader of the next generation. And as the monarchy evolves under King Charles, it's becoming clear the soul of the crown has already been passed, not through ceremony, but through whispers, through diamonds, through brooches that speak louder than speeches. Catherine may not wear the state crown yet, but in the eyes of many, she already holds the monarchy's heart. The monarchy doesn't shout its intentions. It shows them. And when Catherine wears a tiara once owned by the Queen, she's telling the world something bigger than words ever could. That she is trusted, that she is prepared, that she is quietly and without fanfare the future. And while Queen Camilla holds the crown in ceremony, it's Catherine who holds it in spirit. Through brooches and earrings, through heirlooms passed hand to hand, Queen Elizabeth made her final decision. Not with a public declaration, but with diamonds. And now, every time Kate steps out adorned in one of those gleaming gifts, the message echoes louder than ever. The Queen may be gone, but her will, her real will, shines on. So what do you think? Did Queen Elizabeth carefully choose Catherine as the true future of the monarchy? Or are we just now seeing the start of something even bigger? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more royal revelations.